All right, guys. Our next guest is a UFC Hall of Famer, a former UFC heavyweight champion, and a pioneer in the MMA world. You may also know him from his great work on Inside MMA and his awesome podcast, Rutten and Ronaldo. Very, very good. It's a pleasure to welcome El Guapo Bas Rutten back to Submission Radio. Bas, welcome to the program.
I'm very welcome, man. I'm happy to be here.
It is always a pleasure to have you on. Now, we know it was a little bit early in the week, but we just wanted to wish your wife Karen a happy birthday. Tell us, how did you celebrate the big occasion? And we know you're a beast in the kitchen. Any fancy cooking this time around?
There was no fancy cooking around. Boss was in bed, and I had my fourth neck surgery. So and that week was actually a pretty painful week for me. So I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand. So I had to lay in bed. And then she had to actually take care of me. So now I'm returning the favor. We went out a couple of times, to dinner and stuff like that.
Okay. So you went out a couple of times. So it's like you owe her two, really. You don't owe her one, you owe her two. But more to the point, what exactly happened with your neck? We didn't know you were due for another neck surgery.
Just a weird thing. I was just I was yawning and stretching at the same time. And I heard a pack underneath my shoulder blade, which is the place I always said in the beginning that all the problems come from with my neck. Really weird. And right away I lost strength again in my hand, and my whole arm was numb. So I went to the doctor, and apparently the T1 and T2 discs they were out of line, and a bone chip was in the middle. So when I stretched, that was probably the bone chip that hit the nerve, and it hurt. So when they took it out, it was good. The nerve jumped back up 30%. I was this morning with the doctor, and he showed me the results. Even my spinal cord improved 20%, and then 30% in nerve action. So it's a good sign.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. You got to avoid getting tired, Bas. No more yawning, okay? We don't need any more surgeries. But let's get...
Is that the weirdest thing ever? I mean, you're yawning, you're stretching out, and I'm breathing in, and then, pop, you hear this snapping sound.
Who
has that?
The same thing happened to me once, actually. I was supposed to play a game of basketball for my university team, and I did that in bed, and I did something really bad to my back, and basically no one ever spoke to me again. No one believes you. I mean, when you're Bas Rutten, you're one of the toughest men alive. People believe you, but when you're 19, 20, back in the university days, no one's going to believe that you hurt your back yawning. So there you go. No one wants to talk to me. If anyone's listening to the show from that squad, see, it happened to Bas Rutten. Come on, give me a call.
It happened. I believe you. I'm with you. I'm behind you. You can tell them that.
Yeah, that's right. If they've got any issues, and they've got some tickets to go to LA, we'll send you over there. You can sort them out for us, Bas. But let's talk about the big news that happened this week. UFC 199, obviously now Michael Bisping versus Luke Rockhold, a rematch. Number 2, Bisping would say it's fight number 3 because of the sparring session that they had in the gym that he believes that he won. Want to get your reaction to this matchup, Bas. Is this the one that you wanted? I mean, Jacare was supposed to go in there, but they checked him out and he wasn't healthy enough. Are you happy with this matchup for Rockhold at UFC 199?
Yeah, no, I'm happy for it. I think Bisping did a really good job last time against Anderson Silva. I believe he truly won that fight. I said it even before the verdict was there. He got 3 rounds. That was it. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a very tough fight, this one. But yeah, like you said, Jacare would have been great, but he can't. So the next guy, and who was right away on Twitter saying, I would love to do it. Bisping, and I'm all for it. This guy's always in shape, great shape, always pushes the fight in the action, and that's what he really is going to need to do against Rockhold. Rockhold is just a complete animal. He's good everywhere. Striking, ground, everything. He's solid. So it's a hard guy to beat. But Bisping had done crazier things like beating Anderson Silva.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is it's good to see Bisping finally get that title shot after so many years of having that title elude him, and to finally see him get it. It is a bit of a bummer, though, that it is under these circumstances, because you got to assume that he'd want more than 2 weeks to prepare. If he's going to beat Luke Rockhold, how do you think he does it?
Oh, it's got to be a stamina thing. That's the thing. Is he in great shape? That's the thing. If he beats him, it's probably going to be a decision victory. And if it goes to a decision anyway, I truly believe that they should give him a rematch and give him a full training camp. If it goes to full distance and he would lose.
Would you?
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Sorry, I was going to say, were you thinking immediate rematch?
Yeah, because this is the thing. He did step up, right? I don't know how long it's going to take for Weidman. Weidman, at least, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. Well, what he was hoping for that, he told me. He said, hopefully with 6, 8 weeks, who knows. But, if it's 6 weeks out, then the training starts. So he's going to be out for a while. So, it would be good. Maybe Jacare is going to, I know he's going to be there. But if this goes to a decision, if Rockhold cannot put him away, I think he deserved the rematch right away.
Well, let me ask you on that point there. Do you think Weidman does deserve an immediate rematch when he comes back? I mean, a lot of people weren't very happy that he got an immediate rematch. Me and Casper, we're not big fans of immediate rematches in MMA. I think it takes away from the person that beat the person originally, and a lot of people sort of get sick and tired of the same matchups. Would you like to see Weidman possibly fight someone else? I mean, Jacare, like you mentioned, is in line there.
I with Weidman, I don't know Weidman personally, so I'm a little biased as well. But I do know that once he stepped in that cage with Rockhold, that was the first thing that I told my friends here. I said, it doesn't look good. He doesn't look good. I don't know what. I saw something, and he wasn't. It was a different guy. And I talked to him while we were texting back and forth yesterday. And he said that he was so bummed. He was really in the best. Everything, mentally, physically, everything was going really, really well. He felt so strong. And now this thing with his neck happened. So I believe in rematches when they're very close. The Frankie Edgar wars, when it's 5 rounds and it's very close, could have gone either way. Then I believe, rematch is in place. Normally when somebody gets stopped, I wouldn't say it. But in the case with Weidman, and the things he did and never was beaten before. And you could tell he was off. There was something going on. I said, okay, let's give him a rematch. I was okay with that one.
I'm wondering, how do you know Chris Weidman? Obviously, he comes on Inside MMA. Do you guys sort of have a relationship outside of that? Do you guys, do you and Chris Weidman hang out on the side?
No, we don't. I just know him through a buddy. Okay, Kevin James knows him also. They put all these fighters with him, and they live in the same town. So they hang out a lot. And when I'm with Kevin, a couple of times a year, I go there for like a week or so. And then, of course, he's always there. And bowling. He has a bowling alley downstairs, Kevin. It's hilarious. Everybody's bowling.
Nice.
Oh, wow. Okay, just quickly before we move on, who's the winner here? Bas Rutten, Kevin James, or Chris Weidman go bowling? Who's coming out on top?
I'm on top from the bottom, always. The problem with me is I have to do it left-handed. I cannot do it with my right hand. I have my right hand, so I have to throw with my left hand, and I'm starting to get the hang of it, But I cannot do what they what they do, throwing in a curve. I can't do that, man, with my left hand. I need more practice. The couple of days that I'm there, and it's not like when I'm there that I'm bowling the whole time, because he's got these ATV four-wheelers, and he's got 12 acres. And hills and sand and trees, So I'm on those things. I'm blasting. I'm trying to set the record on the thing on the grass. I didn't put the record. The record was a guy, but he's like 50 pounds lighter than me. He did 64. I did 63 miles an hour.
Wow.
On a short. That's a short part of grass. So it's a lot of fun, man. Going in the hills with those four-wheelers. I love it.
ATVs are sick. We're friends with the wrong people. We need to be friends with Kevin James. Now, let's talk about last weekend. We saw Stipe Miocic beat Fabrizio Werdum to become the new UFC heavyweight champion. As someone who's known for your awesome striking, what did you think of his performance and the way he was able to finish Werdum?
I thought it was awesome. There's not a lot of fighters on the planet who can box backwards. When you go at boxing, look at boxing, De La Hoya always popped up for me, who was a guy who could move backwards and still connect. Actually, Chuck Liddell did that pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Stipe Miocic with his boxing background, that was just on the money. He was so calm, so relaxed, kept him constantly on the outside of his reach. I don't know why Werdum did it. I have a few theories. Maybe that punch that he just got hit with was a really hard punch, and maybe he was dazed, and maybe he was afraid that Miocic thought that, or maybe he thought that Miocic saw that he was dazed, so he kind of bluffed himself forward, here, I'm coming for you, I'm not hurt, here I am. A lot of guys do that, I did that, those kind of things, but sometimes that might backfire, of course. Or he thought, because he nailed Miocic as well, that he rocked him. But to me, when you saw Miocic, it didn't look like he was rocked. And so it's one of these two things. And otherwise, he was hurt and he was just running forward, looking for a clinch. But I think that if you do that, don't don't just walk forward like that in a fighting stance. Let it run, simply run. Nobody does it. I've never seen anybody do that. Can you imagine if Werdum stands there and suddenly he takes a sprint, a full sprint, and he crosses his hands in front of his face, so he can't get hit, and full sprint and close the distance and clinch, and then start from the clinch, start kneeing, and then when you get him a little bit off balance, maybe go for a takedown. Now, I know Miocic is really hard to hit, but to take down, he did a phenomenal job. He was just on the money, and he was laser-guided precision that night.
Well, we know you like to do technique, so I'd love to see Bas Rutten pull that technique off and show us how it's done. And I'll run at people all day long if you show me how to do it. But let's talk about the next matchup. It's a no-brainer to us that Overeem will be challenging him next for the title. It's an interesting matchup where you have a K1 champion fighting a guy who doesn't really get the credit he deserves for his unorthodox boxing and unique foot movement in Stipe Miocic. What do you see that matchup going like? Who do you think wins that battle?
It's Overeem looks really good right now. He looked really loose in Holland, no pressure, no nothing. The way when the situation got dangerous, he just ran away from it. And then he just came back, that showed that he was totally in control. That kick, it was bizarre. A freaking Karate Kid kick. Almost, it was all, but then Miocic, he's the guy who's not afraid. He's not intimidated from nobody. And he knows that if he connects with a shot, he will drop Overeem. History has been telling us this. He went 6-7 times, he got knocked out. And there was not that people really hit him like bizarre hard. So, and Overeem knows that too. He started changing his fighting style again. The single punch is always his one hand, his defense up. Works really, really well for him. He should stay away from making long combinations because that's when he's the most vulnerable. Miocic, if he doesn't get hit, of course, by Overeem, because it's the same thing the other way around. And Overeem also, his kicks and his knees, everything is hard, what he throws. So Miocic has to watch out for that. But he's really good on what I just said with Werdum staying just outside the reach. That is something that he took to heart from boxing, I believe, when he did the Golden Gloves, and he's just a crazy athlete. He plays baseball, he does everything, this guy. He's good everywhere. So if he can stay just outside the reach and then hit the button one time, he could win that fight. And then on the other side, when Overeem suddenly gets a clinch or he can take him down ground and pound or knees from the clinch, everything, like I said, he throws, it's hard. So, it's going to be very interesting to see.
And I don't think Overeem's ever gone 5 rounds in his career. I could be wrong, but I don't think he has. So it's going to be interesting if he does get out of round 3 to see, what happens there and if Overeem's cardio stands up. Because we know Stipe has it. Now, Bas, we never did get a chance to discuss John Jones's performance against OSP with you at UFC 197. Now he rematches Daniel Cormier at UFC 200. But before we get your thoughts on that card, there are a lot of people saying that if DC didn't get injured, he could have beaten Jones that showed up, against OSP at UFC 197. Do you think Cormier could have beaten Jones, or the Jones that we saw at UFC 197?
Yeah, I do believe that. I think he made a few mistakes in the first fight, but he did actually pretty good the first few rounds when he fought John Jones the last time. So you watch a fight like that, you learn from that, and you're going to go, okay, well, I thought I was in shape, but let's boom it up a little bit more. Let's go crazy on the stamina. That's the one thing I always say. There's no such thing as having too much stamina. The guy with the best stamina who can keep pushing, that's probably the guy who's going to win because he can take better shots. He can deal better with everything, and he can think more straight because his mind gets the flow of oxygen the whole time, so his brain is working full capacity. And I think that if he really at the moment that he knew that it was going to be the rematch, and he started focusing on stamina, and then he meets the John Jones who fought against OSP, who had a little bit rust here and there, still did really good, don't get me wrong. But OSP ran out of gas pretty fast, and Jones couldn't put him away. So normally, I think he could have done that, or that, of course, OSP is just a really tough guy, and I have to say he is. But I think that Cormier, does have a chance, but he needs to push the action. He cannot let Jones let his crazy oblique kicks and all this crazy stuff, doing the spinning elbows, spinning punch, crazy uppercuts, because then you let him get into his game, and that's the one thing he cannot do. He needs to be on him like white on rice.
Well, as Gasper said, Jones to DC, now the main event for UFC 200. It's a great rematch, but fans are a little bit disappointed not to have McGregor on the card. Looking at the card, it looks like, and looking at what it looks like now, Do you think it's got the potential to be the biggest UFC card of all time? And if you could add one matchup to it to make it just that bit sweeter, what would you add to UFC 200, Bas?
Well, the add-on would have been, of course, McGregor. That would have made it. That would have made it. Boom. That would have made it the biggest pay-per-view pay-per-view show ever. But yeah, it didn't happen. I don't know. Is the DJ? Is he already on it? Demetrius Johnson. That's a sad thing, by the way, because Demetrius Johnson, he doesn't get the respect he really deserves. This guy's better than John Jones. He's a pound-for-pound best guy there is. He's at this weight class finishing people. You know that a lot. He's working circles around everybody. Just stopped an Olympic gold medalist who was undefeated, and Henry Cejudo, who did also Golden Gloves boxing. It was, the sky is the limit. This guy is so good, yet the fans, for some reason, don't appreciate it. I don't know. I don't know how. This shows you that a lot of fans go out. They watch a fight for the hype, I guess. Or of course, a lot of older guys. I should say not older people, but guys. They always think that the heavyweights are the toughest guys on the planet. But put Demetrius Johnson in a bar, I guarantee you he cleans out that whole bar, and it could be put 300-pound guys in there. They're not going to make it. That's how strong and good this guy is. People just should realize that, and then put him on a card, and then hopefully that makes the card big. But unfortunately, that's not the case with him.
No, I mean he's fighting. He's already got his next fight lined up at UFC 201 against Wilson Reyes. So they're really going down the division. But it's interesting that you say that he's the pound for pound best fighter, because this is the debate that everyone's talking about. Is it him or is it John Jones? You're saying him. Why would you say it's him over John Jones as the pound for pound best?
Because his submission game is better than Jones. I'm not talking about the guillotines and the other things that John Jones does. He can, Demetrius Johnson can tap you with everything. Toe hold, heel hook, inverted heel hook, knee bar, you name it. Kimura, anything. Whatever mistake you make, he's going to get that. Triangle chokes. I mean, he does it all. And then on his feet, he can knock you out. On his feet, nobody's touching him. He's always out of the way when people are punching him. And he's just an unbelievable fighter. He attacks from all angles. He knocks you out with high kicks, knees to the body, knees to the head. I mean, elbows. This guy's the limit. Look at his record and then see how many different ways this guy won. It's pretty impressive.
And also he fights very, very frequently as well, which is another feather in his cap. Now, we mentioned McGregor, and we'd be stupid not to ask you your thoughts on this whole ridiculous fight talk between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. I mean, there's a number of issues. As McGregor is under UFC contract, and Mayweather wouldn't do it unless it's under his promotion. The asking money alone from Floyd would be a lot more than UFC would be willing to pay him. But do you see any way this fight could come together?
No. And I truly believe it shouldn't either. I heard people say that I slammed Conor on Inside MMA because he says he's not going to win it. I go, okay, listen, if somebody's a big Conor fan, is Bas Rutten, and everybody knows that, that, I told it on the show many times, and if he would fight him, I will be 100% rooting for him. And you see how I did that, rooting? Okay, let's go back. Let's think about this match. Okay, now, and I know he boxed from he was 12 till 15 years. I heard he had a junior boxing belt in Ireland, that he trains with world champion boxers in Ireland in the gym, that he holds his own. I know all that, but I boxed against really great boxers as well in the gym, and I did really well against them. But that's training, and training and fighting are two completely different things. Let's, for instance, in the training you never get tired. It's very hard to get tired in training because you don't have the stress, no adrenaline, no nothing. So, but if you look at Conor, I guarantee you in the gym he doesn't get tired. I guarantee you that after a workout he does 7 rounds of 5 minutes, focus mitts, full blast, or Thai pads. That's because that's the shape he is. But once you put it under pressure, if you saw that against Nate Diaz, he ran out of gas after 1.5 rounds because he was throwing power shots and he was chasing him the whole time. Now imagine that happening in boxing against a guy like Mayweather, who fought many 12 rounds of 3 minutes. Imagine if he just runs out of gas after 7 rounds. Let's not even take a look at the Nate Diaz fight. He's gonna have if he makes that, because Floyd is something, man. This guy, he is not a Nate Diaz. That's what I can say. And I know that Nate can take a shot, but in boxing, I don't know that Nate is a great boxer. He's great in MMA as a boxer, but put him against a professional boxer. And I don't mean feeders, right? Because these guys with a record of like 2-24, they fight a guy who is like 12-0. They're in there. But I think every top 20 MMA fighter can probably knock out a pro boxer who's a feeder. But another pro boxer, like a top 10, like even if he will go after Werdum or something like that, I go like, dude, these guys. They've been busy. He's been doing it for his whole life. Like, what is Mayweather, 40 years old? So he's been boxing, let's say, 36 years, because I think he started at 4. His father boxed, his uncles boxed. Everybody was good. He grew up in boxing. He solely boxed. He did like 90 amateur matches, won 3 Golden Gloves titles. Oh, yeah, and then he's 49-0 against the best boxers on the planet. And Canelo couldn't knock him out. Werdum couldn't knock him out. But some people, though, dazed him, but he never got an official knockdown. Yeah, well, he got one, but that didn't really count. The guy's his defense is unbelievable. Why would you pick a guy like that and think that you can stop him? I love Conor. I love everything he does, but it's like me in my prime saying, okay, I'll fight Mike Tyson. I'm really good. I'm going to get killed. I wouldn't even fight Mike Tyson. They tell me, oh, you want to fight him? We'll give you $2 million. Well, you always have these dumbasses who say, oh, $2 million, I step in the ring with Tyson. He'll kill you, dude. I mean, if you get hit the wrong way, the power on a guy like that is just insane. Now, he's, of course, not as much power. Mayweather doesn't have that kind of power, but he does have power. He did knock out over half of his fights. And these are, well, like I said, top guys on the planet. So, it's just one of those things that I say you're grabbing too high. He's been doing solely this for 36 or 34 years in his life, always met the best boxers, always been training 2 times a day. He's a workhorse. He's arguably the best boxer on the planet. I don't see that. I wish if they fight, I'm rooting. Like I said, I want McGregor to win, trust me. But I just don't see that happen. I think it's a really hard fight.
I'm just curious because obviously Mayweather, super rich, one of the highest paid athlete, great record, a big reach, a lot of fans. Why do you think he keeps pursuing this McGregor thing over and over in these interviews? What do you think his long game is?
Well, if he gets it, listen, it's so bad that people are always going to pick it up bad. But for Mayweather, he's going to go, that's going to be easy money. That's why he picked the fight. Because he's doing something that he's been doing his entire life for 2 times a day. Against the guy who did it 8 years. It's a big difference. And who did it 8 years and also only 4 years in the gym when he was junior. But then when he became pro, he was, working against other mixed martial artists. Not only boxers. Now, if he would have had 5 boxing classes a week solely against like world champions, and he would have done that for 6 years straight, and I go like, okay, I see why he was going to come from. But, and maybe also the whole thing with me is that maybe the Nate Diaz fight is in my head. Maybe that's the reason I'm thinking. No, it's not the whole reason because I truly believe Mayweather is just the best and he will beat him. But, in the Nate Diaz, he ran out of gas pretty much in 1 round. People go, yeah, but he threw hard punches. Yeah, so he does it in the gym. If he doesn't, it would be really stupid, right? I mean, if you see me on the focus mitts, I do 7 rounds before the Thai pads. My first punch is as hard as my last. There's no jabs, no nothing. Everything is 100%. Full power, and I build that up slowly. I start only with 2-minute rounds, go to 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and I go to 6-minute rounds, and I do 7 6-minute rounds, insanely hard. And you do that after a workout, but you spread that out, slowly but surely. Over 10 weeks, you do that. McGregor didn't, he didn't do solely boxing. He's been focusing on other things, on the ground, on the kicking, So it's just a thing that I don't see. If he would have blasted Nate, bam, all over the place, 2.5 rounds, and then boom, dropped him, and he would have walked around, and he wouldn't have breathed heavy, then I would say, yeah, okay, maybe then it made more sense in my mind, but just maybe because of the last fight, and it's so unfortunate that I say this because I always say this, it's so bad because people always remember you for your last fight, right? That's it. I always say, but it's in my head. It's in my head that he threw power shots, but then he ran out of gas. And if you fight 12 rounds of 3 minutes, imagine he survived 5 or 7 rounds. But then he's tired as he was against Nate. And then you give Floyd 7 or 5 more rounds. Who's fresh? Because he's been in that situation God knows how many times. That's a problem. It's going to have a problem. So I don't know. And Floyd is stirring the pot, of course. And like I said, it's for him, he thinks, because what was this money? Because I hear $10 million? No, it was got to be way more, right?
It would have to be a lot more. He would have to co-promote it, and then he'd have to get the direct cut of the pay-per-view. So that would be another hurdle. I don't think the UFC would co-promote with anyone.
Wow. Yeah. Well, for him, he would go. It's not against the boxer. You know, he knows he has a much higher chance than he has facing Triple G. I guarantee you that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a really great breakdown, Bas. And for the record, like, I agree with you 100%. We are running out of time, though. Finally, we have to discuss CM Punk real quick. I mean, it was an experiment that has not yet proven a payoff for the UFC or Phil Brooks himself. And now, after coming back from surgery, there are reports he is struggling in live sparring. We know he's a very determined guy, but at 37 and with all the wrestling injuries and bumps and bruises he's had, when do you think it's time to pull the plug on this experiment? I mean, for the record, we are fans of CM Punk, but if it takes another year or two when he's closer to 40, is it still worth going ahead with it for the UFC?
For the UFC, it will, I think, because it will pull a lot of people in watching from the WWE. I don't know if for CM Punk it's going to be good. That's the thing. I'm especially if injuries are there the whole time and he cannot really train to his full potential. I truly believe it's this guy, because he's got a mindset, and you can tell he's got a mindset that if he would be fresh and healthy, and he would train 2 years straight, yeah, that could be a complete different story. I think he might do really well because, strong people get that, strong-minded people. But the injuries all the time, now he's going to be afraid once he starts training again to re-injure that injury, and there will be other injuries as well, and he's going to be afraid to re-injure those as well. So it holds the whole training back. I'm looking back at myself with my tendonitis and knees. I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, and it messes your training up. Especially when you're in pain. I so much in pain one time. I remember I was training at Eddie Bravo when my tendonitis hit. I guarantee you that the whole gym thought that I was the weakest person there on the planet. But you have no clue how much that I was training with this guy, and I believe his name was like Goliath or something. And I wanted him on top of me the whole time because I was going to face Kimo Leopoldo at the time, who later got replaced. But I was facing him all the time. I could not get. He was mount. I could not get him off of me. And so after the workout, everything was so much pain, couldn't do anything. And I said, can you give me your number? Because in 3 days, I'm going to take 3 days break. And then can you come to my gym? Then he came to my gym. I just blasted it. I mean, there was no way that you could hold me down. I was just like every 20 seconds I was out of it. Boom, 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 boom. You see, but that's what pain does. Pain the focus goes to the pain. You're afraid to do certain things because it will annoy you more. You get more pain. And if CM Punk has that as well, yeah, that's not a good thing. I hope he lets it heal first. And I know you don't want to do that at this moment because you want to keep on training, but he shouldn't. He should let it heal first. And even if the doctor says a month, I'm always saying take 2 months, heal it correctly, and then slowly but surely start training. Make it a half a year or a year project. Slowly but surely, baby steps. He should be okay.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Now, guys, Bas doesn't have much time. We appreciate the time that you gave us, and you can catch him on Inside MMA every week and listen to his podcast, Rutten and Ronaldo, which is available on SoundCloud, Libsyn, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Check it out. It's a great listen. A big variety in guests, pro wrestling, actors, just MMA, just across the board. A great podcast. Also, check out the O2 Trainer at o2trainer.com. And, of course, follow Bas on Twitter at Bas Rutten MMA. As always, Bas, it's such a pleasure having you on Submission Radio. Thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome. And this week, guys, we have Steve Maraboli. You have to listen to this guy. He's one of he's the most quoted man on the planet. Like Oprah Winfrey, everybody speaks highly of the guy. Super duper smart. And he's talking about the mindset of fighters and of people and why people don't do things and do things. And it really blew us away. Like Mauro and I were sitting, we're getting goosebumps the whole time. It was the craziest thing. It is so on the money. There's a podcast, that interview, you can listen 5 times, and every time you listen, you will hear new things and new tips. It's just a really good one.
That's awesome. Just really quick, what was the guy's name?
Steve Maraboli.
Steve Maraboli.
Yeah, Google him. This guy's the most quoted man on the planet, they say. Like, he wrote a few books that just blast every book away, and all the money and proceeds only goes to charity. He said, I never bought a slice of pizza from that money. Every single time, he's a really good guy. Trains mixed martial arts, trains at Longo and Sarah. So he knows the Weidman and every Ray Longer, all these Matt Serra. He trains with those guys because when I was doing homework on him, I saw him wearing a Bad Boy shirt or a Bad Boy hoodie. And I go, oh man, this is going to be a great interview. And then when we called him, he goes, dude, I'm such a big fan. He said of me. He said, I'm nervous. I say, you're nervous? Come on, man, this is the craziest thing. So it is so cool when you hear that you really have somebody high on the pedestal, and then he has it the same thing with you. These are fun things to find out in life. And then when you talk to him, when you hear him talk, he's a very human guy. He's not the doctor who's going to speak very nice and do it. He's the man. You're gonna love this guy. Just listen to it. I promise you. Don't miss it.
Awesome. There you go. We're completely sold, and I think everyone else is. Rutten and Ranallo, go check it out, guys. And Bas, as always, thank you so much for taking the time.
Godspeed. Party on, guys.